Hey guys, for today's video, we are going to be trying out the new Colourpop Sweet Talk palette. I don't know about you guys, but this palette like really spoke to me. Normally, I am not somebody that really gravitates towards neutral palettes, and I really like those like bright neon and fun colors. So it was actually really surprising that this palette just kind of like made me want to try it. And I think a lot of it is the packaging, and if you guys know me, I am super into like that vintage aesthetic, and this palette definitely has it, and it has like that, I don't know, it just has like a floral vibe. It kind of has like a little bit of a spring look to it too. And I don't know why, but I just really thought that this one would be cool to try out, so I thought we would try it out together. Another thing that really caught my eye about this palette is that it includes the Super Shock shadow formula, and if you have never tried out a Super Shock shadow from Colourpop, I do highly recommend them, especially the really glittery ones. They are super cool. But what happens is those come in like these like little white containers with a lid, and if you misplace the lid or if you don't screw it on tightly enough, they do dry out. So I'm really curious as to how this eyeshadow is going to work, and if it's going to work like other Super Shock shadows in my collection, or if they are going to dry out in the palette over an extended amount of time. So I'm really curious about that. Online, it doesn't say which shades are that formula, but I'm assuming it's these really glittery ones right here, but I'm super curious about them. So a little bit about the Colourpop Sweet Talk palette is that it retails for $18 on Colourpop's website and contains 12 eyeshadows. So packaging wise, here is the front of the palette. As you can see, it is super cool, and it has like that vintage rose kind of aesthetic to it. It's super pretty. I really love the packaging on this one. It is definitely one of the more unique palettes in my collection right now. And then for those curious, here is the back of the palette, and as you can see, they do have the shade names on here, and they're really easy to read, which I really appreciate. So once we open up the palette, there is no mirror in here. It just says Colourpop up here with some little floral designs, which is super cute. And then in this palette, again, there are 12 eyeshadows, 7 of which are matte, and then 5 of which are shimmer. But yeah, so if you would like to see the tutorial portion of this video as well as swatches, then stay tuned on watching. So first things first is that I'm going to prime my eyelids using my Too Faced Shadow Insurance Eyeshadow Primer. And what I'm going to do with this primer is I'm going to apply it to the center of my lid, up to my brow bone, into this inner tear duct area, and then underneath the eye a little bit. Just anywhere we are applying eyeshadow. So next, using a Real Techniques medium shadow brush, I'm just lightly dusting a skin tone colored eyeshadow just to set this eyeshadow primer. I'm not adding any pigmentation, I'm just doing a light dusting just to get rid of some of the tackiness. This will also help us with the blending later on. So the first shade that I'm going to go into out of the palette is called Catch Me, and I'm going to go in with this Lexi 229 tapered blending brush. And then with Catch Me, I'm applying it to my crease and blending it upwards towards my brow bone. This I'm going to be using as a transitional shade, but if you are any darker in skin tone than I am, you could easily have set your eyeshadow primer with it. But for me, I'm just going to be using it as a transitional shade. The next shade that I'm going to go into out of the palette is called Dreammaker, and I'm going to go in with this Sigma E35. And then with Dreammaker, I'm just going to apply it into my crease and really heavily pack it and blend it upwards. I'm also using it to kind of round out my outer V. I'm doing like these little circular motions too, just to kind of blend things all together, because I'm really going for like a soft look today. Using the same Sigma brush, I am now going to dip into Meadow, which is kind of a deeper peachy shade. And again, I'm just going to apply Meadow into my crease and into my outer V, and I'm just using it to add a little bit more definition. As you can see, these kind of shades are really soft and very pretty, but honestly, I don't see too much of a difference between Meadow and Dreammaker once applied. Like when you really look at it, I don't really see too much of a difference between the two eyes, but they're still really beautiful and they're blending out like a dream. Now with a Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush, I am now going to go into this shade called ICYMI. I don't know what that acronym is, I should have googled it, but I'm going to go into this one right here. So with this shade, I'm just going to apply it into my crease and into my outer V. I feel like the look right now is very like fresh and really like spring-like, but I want to see how much dimension I can get into this look since that is more of my personal style. But for right now, I think this look is really kind of, it's really bright and like airy almost. Just kind of pretty and something I don't normally do, so I'm really kind of enjoying it. As you can see with this ICYMI shade, I did get a little bit of a dark band, so I'm going to take this Sigma E35 with a little bit of Meadow and that ICYMI shade. I'm going right over the top of it to see if I can kind of get rid of it. I have noticed like with the deeper shades from Colourpop, I always have a tendency to get like this deep kind of band that's really hard to correct. I'm going to see if I can try to correct it this way. I'm doing like little circular motions over the edge just to kind of try to soften it. After doing that method, you can see I still have a really slight harsh line, but for the most part, it definitely did correct it. In the palette, I am now going to go into the deepest shade called Feel Free with this Lexi 231 small tapered blending brush. And with Feel Free, I'm adding it to this outer V area of my lid, kind of really pushing it down. I'm not going back and forth yet. I'm just pressing the pigment into this outer V area. And then whatever is left on my brush, I'm taking it inwards to the eye. So I'm putting my brush right here in the outer V, and then doing a back and forth motion, bringing the color inwards, just for a little bit of added definition. As you can see, when I was bringing that Feel Free shade inwards, it just got super patchy and does not want to stick to my skin. And this, unfortunately, is a concern I have with a lot of the deeper matte shades from Colourpop. This isn't the first time I've had it happen, and it's unfortunate because the colors are just super pretty, but for some odd reason, they just don't always work out for me. And to help me blend out this Feel Free shade, I'm taking a little bit of that ICYMI shade on that Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush, and I'm going right over it, and I'm really packing this shade on and doing little circular motions to blend it on top, just to get rid of that harsh line that we were having. And as you can see, after I did that, I still have that really drastic harsh line. It seems like everything is still really patchy as well. Originally, I was going to do my normal cut crease, but I don't know, I just feel like keeping this look really kind of soft and pretty. So I'm just going to dip into the shade called Garden Date with a Sigma F70 brush. And with this brush dampened, I'm just going to apply this shade to the lid. I'm kind of tracing out my crease with this brush, but I'm not really cutting it. I'm just making sure I'm applying it more to the lid. I'm also kind of packing it on as well. I don't know, I just don't see any shimmer. Or am I going crazy? Like, I just don't see it looking like it does in the pan. Because in the pan and on my finger, it looks a little bit more metallic than it does when applied with that brush. So I'm going to try it with a different brush real quick. Now with a dampened flat shader brush from BH Cosmetics, I'm just going to apply it again to my lid. And now I'm definitely getting more pigmentation this time around. Must have been the brush. But originally it just seemed like it wasn't giving me like that payoff that it looked like when I did swatch it on the back of my hand. Off camera, I just wet my brush a little bit more and I was able to get a really kind of crisp line with that shadow. But right now I'm going to take a little bit of Feel Free on the Sigma E06 winged eyeliner brush. I'm going to grab my mirror and I'm going to start kind of tracing this cut crease, or somewhat cut crease since we didn't use concealer today, just to get it really nice and crisp. This will help kind of bring a little bit more definition. This is a trick I like to do when I use like really like chocolate browns or like really deep shades in the crease. This will help really make that cut look really defined. You can use any liner brush. This one's just my favorite, but any one will do in your collection. Again, with that same BH Cosmetics flat shader brush, with it dampened, I'm now going to go into the shade called Side to Side. So I'm going to take Side to Side and I'm going to pack it on top of Garden Date. I don't know if I'm really like seeing anything, because in the pan, the shade is like really like sparkly and really glittery. But on the lid, I'm not seeing it. So I'm actually gonna take my finger. Just gonna go on top. I'm really just like pressing this into. Oh yeah, that definitely did a big difference. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this sheet's already like really crumbling, this side to side one. I'm assuming that this is one of the Super Shock formulas, but when I just press my finger in it, it like slips around a lot and it like almost like crumbles. I don't know if you can kind of see it, but like it like crumbled everywhere and then I could like press it back in, but it's kind of messy. Like you can even see like on my cheek over in here, I have a lot of like fallout and like big chunks. I don't know if like the camera's showing it, but like right in here, I have a couple like really big chunks from it. I am now going to go into Prima Drama with my finger since Side to Side worked better that way, and I'm feeling like this one is another one of those Super Shock shadows. And then I'm just packing this on top of everything just to give like this like glittery effect. I swatched this shadow on the back of my hand before I applied it and it's kind of sparse in glitter. So I'm hoping that it's just kind of more like a lid topper. But it does like make a lot of like a mess. Like I have a lot of glitter fallout on my face right here, but on the lid it is like super pretty. But I'll show you what I mean. Like here is it like on my finger. Like I don't know if you can see it, but like it is super pretty. But then when you like swatch it, it just, I don't know, it like loses a lot of the pigment that like it does have on my finger. But that's really typical for like pressed glitters and shades like that. So here is where I'm at right now with the look, and then off camera I'm just going to kind of get rid of all of this glitter fallout as well as apply my foundation. So here is where I'm at right now with the look, and then for the lower lash line I'm just going to take a little bit of Meadow on this Lexi 231 from earlier. I just used my color switch on this brush just to get rid of the excess product that we used earlier. I'm just going right underneath my lower lashes just so the look isn't so top heavy. And then for the inner corner I'm going to go into Side to Side with this Lexi pencil brush. And Now with the shade, I'm just going to pack it into the inner tear duct and then bring it underneath the lower lashes as well. Honestly, I just feel like that shade in the inner corner just isn't bright enough for me, so I'm just going to go into my Ofra Cosmetics Pillow Talk highlighter. Now with this shade, I'm just going to apply it into my inner tear duct area and then kind of bring it underneath the tear duct area as well where the inner corner points. Just to brighten up the inner eye corner. See what I mean though? It just adds like that extra pop. I honestly really love this highlighter. If you're looking for a really good one and you're very fair, or if you want something that's really like icy pink, you will definitely love this one. With this collection, I also picked up one of the Luxe lipsticks. I got the one in the shade Spring Roll, and I just want to show you guys the packaging, but it is just so stinking cute. This one says Sweet Talk on it, and it has like that girl, like the palette. And it has all of like those little flower details as well. It's just so cute. I love how Colourpop is doing their packaging lately. It's just really impressive and it is really aesthetically pleasing. And then for those curious, here is the shade called Spring Roll. It's kind of like a peachy nude. On camera, I think it's pulling a little bit more red, but in person it's definitely more of a peach color. It really reminds me of What's Your Sign from the Kathleen Lights collection. So here is the finished look, and honestly, I had so much fun doing this one. It's kind of coral and it's kind of smoky, which is definitely my style, and I honestly just had a lot of fun playing with this palette. I got to experiment with different textures and using glitter and stuff like that. And if you guys watch my channel, you know I don't use a lot of glittery shades, so having to try and incorporate some of these glitters in my look was a lot of fun for me. Not to mention, I think they look really cool on the eyes as well. As for my final thoughts about this palette, I feel like this palette is just beautiful for springtime, especially if you are somebody that is looking for a really nice neutral palette, but you still want that pop of color. Not to mention, if you are somebody that is looking for some different textures and different styles of eyeshadows to play with, I would recommend this palette alone just for that, since you do get those Super Shock shadow formulas in this one. However, with this palette, I do have some disadvantages as well, and one of which is this shade called Feel Free right down here, this matte deep shade. I feel like Colourpop just doesn't have a really good formula for their deep matte shades. I feel like they're really hard to use, and they give you like this band that's really hard to blend out on the eye, and this eyeshadow is no exception to that, which is unfortunate because it's very beautiful in the pan, but unfortunately when you use it, it's just really hard to work with. And another kind of concern for me about this palette are these pressed I believe that these are the Super Shock shadows. I can't vouch for sure, but I'm assuming so. But they are super pretty when you put them on your finger. But if you apply these ones with a brush, they do not apply well whatsoever. You definitely want to make sure that you are applying them with your finger, because otherwise they get really patchy and they just kind of get chunky and weird, which is definitely a drawback to this palette. I also do want to mention with those Super Shock shadow eyeshadow formulas in this palette, they do create a lot of fallout, so I would definitely recommend doing your eyes first, just so it's a lot easier to clean up later. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend the Colourpop Sweet Talk palette? And I feel like this palette is just perfect for springtime. If you are somebody that is looking for a nice neutral palette, but you don't want the typical average kind of boring neutral palette, I would definitely recommend this one. Since you are getting that coral pop of color, you're getting the glittery shades, and not to mention this one would be perfect for travel since the size is really nice and the packaging is super cute. But overall, I just really like this palette. I thought it was a lot of fun to play with. I thought it was just really cute in general. And literally the only shade I really had a lot of problems with was this shade called Feel Free down here. This was the only one I had issues blending out and working with. But otherwise, all of the other eyeshadows were really pigmented, easy to blend, were just really a dream to work with. But with that said, I do want to share with you guys some swatches of this palette. Catch Me, Side to Side, Garden Date, Work It, Prima Drama, Meadow, Early Morning, Dreammaker, I See Why Am I, Melody, West Side, Feel Free. In the comments down below, let me know what your thoughts are on this palette as well as these swatches. I would love to hear what you guys think as well, and as always, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below, and if you would like to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram account is @lethal_kitten. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and until next time, bye!